So imagine this. You join a band that sells out arenas, has global hits, and gets played at every karaoke bar on earth, right? You rehearse for hours, travel nonstop, pour your heart into the music, and half the audience is staring at you thinking, cool, but where's the real band? That is Journey in 2026. One original member and a rotating cast of insanely talented musicians. And of course, a fan base that still feels like they have a relationship with a group that technically doesn't actually exist anymore. So today we're going to use Journey, yes, that Journey, as a case study to break down the 4 classic stages of team development: forming, storming, norming, and performing. And we're going to look at what was really happening inside the band at each stage, right? The egos, the power struggles, the magic, and of course, the very uncomfortable truth of being a legacy team that's basically kind of a glorified cover band of its younger self. So if you lead teams, work with creatives, or have ever tried to hold a group together longer than 2 years, this story is secretly about you. So let's get into it. When most people think of Journey, they think of the Steve Perry era, right? Don't Stop Believin', Faithfully, Open Arms, right? The mullets, the jackets, the stadiums. But Journey actually started in 1973 as sort of a prog rock, jazz fusion musicians band experiment in San Francisco. And this is what makes them a perfect case study for team development. They've gone from pure experiment to well-oiled hit machine, right? They've survived massive conflict and burnout. They've broken up, reformed, rebranded, and now tour with only one original member, which is the guitarist Neil Schon. And yet somehow, the team brand is stronger than any individual, past or present. So as we go through the 4 stages of teams, forming, storming, norming, performing, I want you to watch how the music changes, the lineup changes, and the power inside the group shifts again and again and again. And then we'll end with a hard question. At what point is a team no longer the real team? And does it even matter if the work is still good? So let's start with forming, which is the first stage of any team. In forming, you usually see big vision, fuzzy roles, polite behavior, lots of ideas, lots of possibility, not a lot of conflict yet because everyone's still sort of feeling each other out, right? Journey's forming stage is not the Journey that most people think about, okay? So imagine, right? We're in the mid-70s. The band is founded by former members of Santana and Frumious Bandersnatch. Neil Schon, who plays the guitar, is there from day one. He's the through line that we still have today. The sound, right, is long solos, improvisation, prog rock, more jam band than arena rock. So in this phase, the team is a bunch of virtuoso musicians experimenting with a sound, right? The identity is still in development. Are we a fusion band, a rock band? Are we making hits or exploring musically, right? The roles are really loose. There isn't a dominant front person like Steve Perry yet. Power's more horizontal, right? And so forming always feels exciting from the inside because you're exploring, you're saying yes to a lot, there's not a lot of structure, and that always feels like freedom. Until the reality of the market hits. And that is exactly what happened. By the mid-70s, Journey's experimental albums weren't breaking through. The label wanted hits. The band needed a clear direction. So, like a lot of teams, the external pressure, right? Money, market, survival, pushes them into the next stage. And storming is where the real team shows up. This is where people push back. Conflicts surface. Power dynamics get negotiated. The original, we're all equal and it's all vibes fantasy sort of dies. Journey's big storming moment is the decision to bring in Steve Perry in 1977 as the lead vocalist. Up until then, they'd had different singers, right? No clear, charismatic focal point. The The music wasn't connecting commercially the way that the label needed it to. And so bringing in Steve Perry was a massive strategic pivot. It shifted the sound toward melodic rock and big anthems, right? It created a frontman, which always changes the power structure. It made some of the original members feel like the band they'd started was being transformed into something else entirely. So imagine being in that room, right? You're an original member. This band is your identity. And now a new person arrives and suddenly, the label is thrilled. The songs that work best are the ones that he sings. The spotlight, the narrative, the fan love, it all starts to center around Steve Perry. And classic storming questions start to appear, right? Whose band is this really? Do we want to be artists or hit makers? Are we compromising our musical soul to sell records? On the surface, they're releasing some of the most successful albums, right? There was Infinity in 1978, Evolution in 1979, Departure in 1980. But under the hood, storming is in full swing. Musical direction disputes, tension around touring schedules and burnout, arguments over control, production decisions, and whose vision mattered most. And this is where a lot of teams break. Storming is unavoidable. You can't just, positive vibes your way out of it. And Journey illustrates a really uncomfortable truth. Sometimes you only get to the next level because someone is willing to be the disruptive force. Steve Perry elevated the band and destabilized it. And that's storming in a nutshell. Performing is the phase everyone romanticizes. It's when roles are clear, the team knows how to execute. Conflict still exists, but it doesn't derail the work, right? You're operating at a high level and delivering consistent results. And for Journey, this is the early 80s. We had albums like Escape in 1981 and Frontiers in 1983. Tours selling out multiple nights, right? Hits all over the charts. On the outside, this looks like the dream, right? The brand is powerful, the fan base is devoted, the music is absolutely iconic. And on the inside, performing often feels less like magic and more like machine. In a high-performing phase, the schedule is super brutal. The pressure on repeat success is enormous. Every decision is bigger. More money, more stakeholders, more expectations. For Journey, this meant creative disagreements intensifying, right? What direction should the next album go? Exhaustion from constant touring. Personal and professional lines blurring. And this is a pattern that you see in a lot of teams, right? Performing is rarely calm. It's sustained excellence under sustained pressure. And high-performing teams that stay at the top too long without rest or revisioning, they usually crack. And by the mid to late 80s, there were internal conflicts, health issues, and just sheer burnout, which led to tensions that couldn't just be managed, right? Members left, came back, or stepped away altogether. The golden lineup that people now think of as real Journey stopped functioning as an active, unified team. So even though this was their peak in terms of output and cultural impact, it planted the seeds for everything that came next. Norming is the phase where a team says, okay, we've had the fights, we know each other's strengths and areas of opportunities, so how do we work together sustainably? But here's the twist. For Journey, norming didn't look like one stable lineup settling in. It looked like multiple phases of breaking up and reforming around a core brand. So after the classic era, members left, side projects happened, reunions came and went. Eventually, a new normal emerged. Neil Schon remained as the constant original member. Other positions became more interchangeable, right? Singers changed. Most notably, they brought in Arnel Pineda, who was discovered on YouTube, to recreate the classic Steve Perry sound. And this is where Journey becomes almost a case study in legacy teams. The band name Journey is now bigger than the current lineup. The function of the team is to preserve and perform a back catalog that fans are deeply attached to. The norms are no longer about collaborative innovation. They're about recreating a sound, delivering a familiar emotional experience, managing a business and a brand. So what does norming look like in this phase? Everyone understands the mission, right? Play the hits, keep the show tight, protect the brand. The roles are clear. Neil Schon as the anchor and owner. Everyone else fulfills a specific musical and performance role. The emotional reality is that newer members step into a story that started before they were even in the picture. They are, in a very real and slightly brutal sense, a cover band of their own myth. And yet, the seats are full, the tickets sell, and people still cry when they hear Faithfully. It's easy to be cynical about that, but there's something very honest here about how teams evolve. So let's come back to that provocative idea that we talked about earlier. Journey today is essentially a cover band with one original member. Is that bad? It really just depends what you believe a team is, right? If you believe that a team is the specific humans who started it, then yeah, Journey today isn't real Journey. But if you believe that a team is the shared mission, the body of work, and the experience that it delivers to the people it serves, then what Journey does now is the logical next phase of a long-lived team. Forming is musicians experimenting with a sound. Storming is power struggles and identity fights when Steve Perry enters. Performing is your classic lineup, peak albums, huge tours. And norming is when the band becomes a legacy system, right? A structure designed to preserve and perform the songs using different people to keep the machine running. And here's where this matters for you and your team. Every long-lived group you're part of will face these questions. Are we still in forming, right? Chasing every idea and trying to please everyone? Are we storming, fighting about power, vision, and direction? Are we performing, but burning ourselves out to stay there? Are we norming, right? Stabilizing, or just calcifying around an old story? And harder still, at what point does your team become a cover band of its former self? Are you keeping the name and structures, but the original spirit is gone? And if the work is still good and the people being served are still happy, is that actually a problem? Journey certainly doesn't give us a clean answer, but they do give us a very clear mirror. So here's what I'd love for you to reflect on. Which stage do you think your team or business is in right now? Forming, storming, norming, or performing? And if you found out that you were slowly becoming a cover band of your earlier vision, what, if anything, would you change? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to see where you feel like you are in your Journey era. And as always, like, subscribe, do all of the YouTube things, press all of those buttons. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.